Xiaomi has been on a roll as they release quite a few devices lately. The Redmi Pro is a phone that costs around $250 via the third-party resellers. It has some pretty good specs, but most importantly, the device has dual camera setup. This is Linus, learn more in our full review. The phone ships in a usual Xiaomi style box, and inside of it you can find a charger, some paperwork, SIM ejector pin, and USB cable. Let me be honest with you, this phone is the most premium Redmi device I've ever seen. It's made entirely of metal, even the top and bottom parts are made of metal too. I really love the brushed aluminum look. Even though the Redmi Pro may look a little bit glossy, it does not attract fingerprints so easily. We have a nice and tactile buttons, and I absolutely love the build quality of this phone. One of the key selling points of this device is, of course, its dual camera setup, which is supposed to give you a hardware-based shallow depth of field effect. The main camera has 13 megapixels, f2.0 aperture and face detection autofocus system. The secondary camera has 5 megapixels. Also, there is a dual-tone dual LED flash. More on the camera features a little bit later in this review. The Redmi Pro sports a 5.5 inches 1080p display. In fact, this is the first Redmi phone to have the AMOLED panel, which is sharp and vibrant. However, the colors may look a bit oversaturated, but I'm okay with that. The sunlight legibility is not the best I've seen, but it is pretty good and I don't have many complaints in this regard. As far as selfie shooter, we have a 5 megapixels camera. Right next to it, there is a highly customizable notification LED light. It's nice to see the backlit capacitive buttons, which can be also customized in a lot of different ways. The fingerprint scanner is embedded in a physical home button. It is fast and very accurate, but it does not work straight from the standby mode, meaning that you have to wake your phone up first. The loudspeaker quality is pretty good. Sure, it is not perfect, but it is definitely one of the best in this price range of phones. One little extra feature that has started disappearing from a lot of phones is the IR blaster to control the devices like TVs. I have a standard edition of the Xiaomi Redmi Pro, which has a deca-core MediaTek Helio X20 chip with a maximum clock speeds of 2.1 GHz, 3 GB of RAM, and 32 GB of storage, which can be also expanded via the microSD card slot. If you are willing to pay extra, you can get a few model variations, and the best one sports a Helio X20 chip with 4 GB of RAM and whopping 128 GB of storage. The gaming performance is pretty good, yet not ideal. You can enjoy most of the 3D games without any issues, but there were a few skipped frames and a little bit of stutter while playing Asphalt 8 on the highest graphics. Of course, changing graphics settings to medium solves this issue. A great thing is that the phone does not have any overheating issues. When it comes to the user interface, my Redmi Pro still runs on the MIUI 7.3, which is built on top of Android 6.0, but I hope to see the MIUI 8 update soon. On the other hand, the phone runs fast and fluid like most of the latest Xiaomi devices. If you are familiar with Xiaomi phones, you will feel right at home. There is no app tray, but there are plenty of customization options, various tweaks and settings to play with. As usual, you can select from a variety of themes, change fonts, and adjust a lot more other things. When it comes to the cameras, let's start by the most interesting part. The dual camera mode, which is called the stereo mode, is simply activated by clicking a small camera button. Here you can play with the aperture number by going all the way to 5.6, or you can go down to a super bright 0.95. Also, you can change the focus area after you take the picture and apply different effects. If you spend a little bit of time with the camera, you can get some nice photos. Of course, not all the pictures will look natural, but you can definitely achieve some nice looking results. A very cool thing is that you can also adjust the aperture number during the video recording to get that shallow depth of field effect. If you tend to take regular photos more often, the auto mode allows you to do that pretty fast, and that is thanks to the baked-in face detection autofocus system. The camera takes some pretty good images in daylight. The pictures tend to have a good amount of detail and sharpness. Also, the colors look natural. However, a few of the shots have softer focus on the corners, but we have to consider that the phone runs on an early software build. My biggest complaint would be that dynamic range adjustment is not always perfect, but the HDR mode does a pretty good job solving this issue. The macro shots have a good amount of detail and they look sharp most of the time. As for indoor photos, you can get some good looking images too. Sure, they will look grainier, but the camera does an okay job with noise reduction. The low-light camera performance is not bad, but it is not great either. There is quite a bit of noise and there could be more detail. Also, I noticed that there is a slight red tint if you take pictures close to their light source, for example street lamps. The dual-tone dual LED flash does a pretty good job illuminating the scene in almost pitch-dark environments, but the flash is a little bit too warm for my taste. There are some other camera modes. Just to name a few, you can adjust some settings in the manual mode if you feel creative, or take panoramic pictures. Speaking of panoramas, they look quite terrible due to very low resolution pictures. Alright, so currently I'm shooting with the Xiaomi Redmi Pro. I'm shooting at 1080p. This is the maximum resolution this phone can shoot. And this is handheld footage. I'm trying to hold the phone as steady as possible as usual. The phone can shoot videos in Full HD. The video quality is just above average, I would say. The footage could look sharper and have more detail. On the other hand, I'm happy with the way continuous autofocus works. You can also shoot slow motion videos in 720p, and the quality is actually not the best, but it is pretty good for the class of the phone. A 5-megapixel selfie camera is able to capture some usable pictures for social media, but it does not impress in general. Most of the images look noisy and grainy, and there is a ton of noise. The situation gets even worse in low light. Overall, the Redmi Pro has a pretty solid camera setup. It is not perfect though, but we may see some improvements with the future software updates. As far as connectivity, I didn't have any issues with Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS or other options. The phone comes with a dual SIM card tray, which can either take 2 SIMs or 1 SIM and a micro SD card. The phone ships with a huge 4050 mAh battery that performs very well. I could get over 6.5 hours of screen on time on a mixed use, which is a very good result. The phone supports a fast charging feature, but it does not come with a fast charger out of the box, which is a bummer. The Xiaomi Redmi Pro is a solid device for the price of around $250 US. First of all, it just looks beautiful and the build quality is top notch. Also, we have a sharp and vibrant display, user interface that has tons of features, and a pretty good overall performance. Also, the dual camera setup is what makes the Redmi Pro stand out. Finally, the battery performance is just fantastic. On the other hand, you have to know that the phone's camera struggles in video recording and the selfie camera could be a little bit better. Other complaints would be that the fingerprint scanner does not work straight from the standby mode, and you should expect a few skipped frames when playing some 3D games on the highest graphics settings. Other than that, the Xiaomi Redmi Pro is a great all-around device. Sure, it is not perfect, but knowing the fact that Xiaomi usually fixes a lot of things with its software updates, the Redmi Pro is a good phone to buy for less than $250 US. It was Linus, thanks for watching, and if you guys have any questions about this device, please drop us a comment down below. Also, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and visit gizmochina.com for a more detailed written review. See you in the next video soon.